What if I told you that the very habits you think are helping you live a minimalist life are the ones keeping you stuck in a cycle of excess and noise? You scrub your room until it shines, but your mind is still tangled like a twisted cable. You buy minimalist items to feel lighter, only to find your wallet thinning while your home remains heavy with a sigh. We work so hard on the surface, yet unknowingly nurture invisible patterns, tiny reflexes, persistent like dust motes in sunlight, clinging to our vision and disguising themselves as normal. The Japanese give names to these truths. The emptiness between things is ma, the beauty of imperfection is wabi-sabi, and the regret of waste is mottainai. Yet so often we live in reverse, fearing emptiness, craving perfection, consuming to fill the silence. Today, I invite you to look deeper into 9 habits that quietly sabotage the minimalist journey for so many, even those who have followed it for years. They are subtle, woven into Western culture, a packed schedule praised as productive, a beige room glorified as spotlessly clean, a gadget called time-saving and sold as smart. But if you pause, as in a Zazen meditation, you'll hear the rustle of these bindings. The faster you clean, the emptier you feel. Letting go of objects without giving them a second life leaves guilt behind. Shopping minimalist trends without asking if you truly need them only feeds the cycle. And chasing perfection squeezes out space for the very people who share your home. You don't need another item to become minimalist. You need a new way of seeing what is really holding you back. And once you can name each habit, like recognizing a noisy guest, you'll know whether to let them sit quietly or politely show them the door. Then, minimalism is no longer a showroom, but a living flow. Fewer things, deeper meaning, fewer constraints, more room to breathe. If this path has felt difficult, it is not because you lack discipline. It is because you have not yet named the habits leading you astray. Let Japanese wisdom touch that unconscious space, gently yet profoundly so. You can finally be free. 1. Rushing to declutter. One afternoon, you open your closet and declare, "Today, I have to finish it all." Your heartbeat races, just like the start of a harsh crash diet, cutting meals, cutting sugar, and almost cutting your breath. Everything happens in a blur. The squeak of hangers, the bulging trash bags, the floor littered with fabric dust, and hurried breathing. In just a few hours, the room looks visibly emptier, but deep inside, a dense feeling takes hold. Relief has not yet arrived, and a hollow ache is already rising. Rushed decluttering is like crash dieting. The body has no time to adjust, and the mind is thrown into shock. When the brain is forced to make hundreds of decisions in a row, it burns out. And when it burns out, mistakes happen. Mistakes like tossing something still useful. Mistakes like discarding a memory you were not ready to part with. Mistakes like stripping a once warm space into a sterile void, cold as a hospital wall. I once heard a story of a young person who, in a burst of minimalist mood, swept away all their high school keepsakes' autograph books, handwritten poems, a scratched class photo. Years later, when they wanted to share stories of 17 with their child, nothing could replace the way old yellowed paper could summon real memories. Another person, after hastily decluttering in frustration, gave away the red vests they had worn in their healthier days. Then came a diagnosis, striking across their life like a sharp line, and that vest suddenly became a marker of a time of normalcy. The initial relief turned into a nameless sorrow. Online, there is no shortage of confessions like these. Weekend decluttering storms, followed by midweek floods of new clutter driven by impulse shopping, by a lack of organizing systems, and by the way we keep trimming the leaves of clutter without ever touching the root. If rushing is a trap, slowing down is the way out. Shrink your goal until success is certain. Just one nightstand drawer, just 15 minutes, just one group of items. When the scope is smaller, decisions grow wiser, and small wins stack into momentum. Do not aim to sweep the whole room clean. Instead, follow the natural order of categories. Start with clothes, then books, then papers, then miscellaneous, and only at the end, sentimental items. This order helps the brain relearn how to sort and how to respect priorities. Each week, set aside a gentle reset hour. Tidy up your email inbox, delete unused apps, turn off excessive notifications. The neatness in your digital space will let your physical home breathe as well. For items you are unsure about, place them in a waiting box marked with a date. If you do not touch them for a month, you already have the evidence you need to let go without regret. When you pick up an object, instead of cornering yourself with the shallow question, "Do I need this?" ask deeper ones. How has it served me in the past year? Does it still fit the life I am moving toward? If I did not own it today, would I pay money to buy it? For sentimental things, observe your feelings. Do they bring warmth or guilt? If it is guilt, perhaps you are keeping them out of obligation, not love. In that moment, a small ritual may soothe you. Thank the item for its companionship, acknowledge its role in your past, and release it to continue its life elsewhere. The Japanese walk this maze of belongings slowly and respectfully. Marie Kondo's KonMari method is never rushed. It teaches us to hold each item and listen. Does it spark joy? It shows us how to fold clothes upright so each one is visible, like tending a tiny fabric garden. Alongside, Hideko Yamashida's Danshari philosophy suggests 3 actions. Dan, refuse the excess at the gate. Sha, eliminate what is unnecessary that has already entered, and recut the emotional ties that no longer serve. In this way, decluttering stops being a frantic sprint and becomes a steady practice, a little each day, a rhythm each week. You are not racing toward an instantly spotless home. You are rebuilding a habit that honors the pace of your inner self. And when that rhythm stabilizes, the house will naturally grow lighter. The empty space before you will no longer feel soulless. It will be a place with the scent of tea, the glow of afternoon, and enough room for you to sit and finally listen to yourself. 2. Focusing only on physical items. Scroll through social media and you will see an endless stream of beige, sofas, walls, sweaters, shelves stripped bare, all promising a vision of absolute calm. You save a few pictures, and by the next weekend you decide, time to reinvent my life. The old chair from your student days is sold, replaced by a trendy abstract painting and a porcelain vase that bears no trace of time. When it is all arranged, the room looks exactly like the photos online, but inside, there lingers an emptiness you cannot name. You touch the new shelf, and it feels like you are in someone else's house, tidy, stylish, but telling nothing of your story. When minimalism becomes only an aesthetic shell, the quiet of the room comes at the cost of silence within your soul. I have heard many confessions echoing the same pattern, once hoarding out of fear of scarcity, now rushing to discard out of fear of excess. Between those fears sits an online cart full of so-called minimalist must-haves. Someone clears their house, then immediately buys the basics recommended online, from Japanese-style lamps, neutral rugs, to perfectly matching storage bins. Months later, they realize life is no lighter. The old clutter has simply been replaced with a prettier toned clutter. Another person, swept up by one inspiring quote, threw away boxes of keepsakes only to discover years later that what seemed like excess was actually a precious anchor for the spirit. Countless homes have been minimalized into soulless spaces, beautiful by template, yet cold, clean by trend, yet lifeless. In chasing appearances, we risk turning the search for peace into nothing more than a change of decor. Behind every decision to buy or discard lies a forgotten why. Why do you want fewer belongings? Is it to finally finish that half-read book? To save for a dream trip? Or simply to quiet the noise around you so you can hear your own thoughts? Each why is a lifeline anchoring you against the waves of trend. With a clear answer, you realize you do not need another minimalist shelf. You need an uninterrupted afternoon to call your mother. You do not need a 5th basic shirt. You need a wardrobe that fits your real life and lets you see yourself in the mirror. Minimalism by values is not an escape from the world. It is a return to the essence of your life, where your time, money, and love are placed where they truly belong. Trends often glorify uniformity, and uniformity erases individuality. Neutral beauty easily becomes a standard, pushing aside expressions of different cultural colors, personal imprints, the marks of living. A beige home may feel calm, but if every home is beige, we lose our voices. Someone once said, "I threw out all my family's dark wood furniture because I thought minimalism had to be light-colored." Now I miss that old wood scent nothing else can replace. Objects that carry age, the chip on a cup's rim, the scratch on a desk, are the handwriting of time. To treat them all as aesthetic trash is to erase part of yourself. The Japanese hold a philosophy that is both gentle and strong, wabi-sabi. Wabi is simplicity, sabi is the beauty of fading. A chipped teacup can still hold the best tea if it has accompanied you through calm mornings. A mismatched blanket that has warmed you through winters carries a comfort no design trend can offer. Wabi-sabi is not an excuse for sloppiness. It is an invitation to stop worshiping perfection. And once you stop chasing perfection, you also stop spending on things that are newer, cleaner, more correct, just to avoid standing out. Alongside it is the spirit of intentional emptiness that gives your room space to breathe and your heart space to keep what is imperfect yet precious. To keep your minimalist journey steady against trends, set milestones of your own. Once a week, ask yourself, what are the 3 values that matter most this week? It could be family, creativity, sustainability. Then look around. Which items serve those values and which are only decorating a minimalist image? Before buying something new or letting go of something old, ask, will this truly make my life better or just make me look like a picture online? Revisit your story regularly. This season, you may need a sunlit desk for work. Next season, a soft chair to read bedtime stories. Minimalism is not a frozen state. It is a rhythm of living. And within that rhythm, save a corner for objects that tell stories. A handwritten card, a scarf knitted by your mother, a slightly crooked bowl that fits perfectly in your hand. They do not break minimalism, they give it a heart. Then you will see, when values are your compass, trends are only passing guests. You can smile as they drift by because you know your home and your life already hold enough space to breathe, enough marks to remember, and enough courage to be yourself. 3. Being swayed by trends instead of values. Scroll through social media and you will see an endless stream of beige, sofas, walls, sweaters, shelves stripped bare, all promising a vision of absolute calm. You save a few photos, and by the weekend you decide, time to reinvent my life. The old chair from your student days is sold, replaced by a trendy abstract painting and a porcelain vase without a trace of time. When it is all arranged, the room looks exactly like the ones online, but inside, there is a void you cannot name. You touch the new shelf, and it feels like you are in someone else's home, tidy, stylish, but telling nothing of your own story. When minimalism is reduced to a shell of aesthetics, the quiet in your room is bought at the price of silence within your soul. I have heard so many confessions echoing the same theme, once hoarding out of fear of not having enough, now rushing to discard out of fear of having too much. Between those two fears sits an online cart overflowing with minimalist essentials. Someone declutters their home only to immediately buy basics recommended online Japanese lamps, neutral rugs, matching storage boxes. Months later, they realize life feels no lighter. The old clutter has only been replaced by prettier colored clutter. Another person threw away a box of keepsakes after hearing one inspiring quote, only to learn years later that what seemed like excess was actually a precious anchor for the spirit. Countless homes have been minimalized into soulless spaces, beautiful by template, yet cold, clean by trend, yet lifeless. In chasing trends, we risk turning the journey to peace into nothing more than redecorating. Behind every choice to buy or discard is a forgotten why. Why do you want fewer belongings? Is it to finally finish the book left half read? To save for a dream trip? Or simply to quiet the noise so you can hear your own thoughts? Each why is a rope holding you steady against the tide of trends. Once you have that answer, you realize you do not need another minimalist shelf. You need an uninterrupted afternoon to call your mother. You do not need a 5th basic shirt. You need a wardrobe that is enough, one that lets you see yourself in the mirror. Living minimalism through values is not about escaping the world. It is about returning to the essence of your life, where your time, money, and love are placed in their rightful places. Trends glorify uniformity, and uniformity erases individuality. Neutral beauty too easily becomes a standard, pushing aside different cultural colors, personal imprints, the traces of life. A beige home may feel calm, but if every home is beige, we lose our voices. Someone once said, "I threw out all my family's dark wood furniture because I thought minimalism had to be light-colored." Now, I miss the scent of old wood that nothing else can replace. Objects with age, the chip on a cup's rim, the scratch on a desk, are the handwriting of time. To call them all aesthetic waste is to erase part of yourself. The Japanese hold a philosophy both gentle and profound, wabi-sabi. Wabi is simplicity, sabi is the beauty of fading. A chipped teacup can still hold the finest tea if it has shared your quiet mornings. A mismatched blanket that has warmed you through winters carries a comfort no design trend can offer. Wabi-sabi does not praise carelessness, it invites us to stop worshiping perfection. And once perfection loses its hold, you stop spending on things that are newer, cleaner, more correct, bought only out of fear of standing out. Alongside it is the spirit of intentional emptiness that gives your home space to breathe and your heart space to keep what is imperfect yet priceless. To keep your minimalist journey steady against the pull of trends, set milestones for yourself. Once a week, ask, what are the 3 most important values for me right now? They may be family, creativity, sustainability. Then look around. Which objects serve those values and which only decorate a minimalist image? Before buying something new or giving something away, ask, will this truly make my life better or just make me look like a picture online? Revisit your story regularly. This season you may need a sunlit desk for work. Next season, a soft chair for reading to your child. Minimalism is not a frozen state, it is a rhythm of living. And in that rhythm, save a corner for objects that tell stories. A handwritten note, a scarf knitted by your mother, a slightly crooked bowl that fits your hand just right. These do not break minimalism, they give it a heart. Then you will see, when values are your compass, trends are only passing guests. You can smile as they drift by because you know your home and your life already hold enough space to breathe, enough traces to remember, and enough courage to be yourself. 4. Throwing away instead of donating or recycling. Saturday morning. The garbage truck beeps as it backs into the alley, urging you on. You stand by the black bin, still holding a warm coat, a perfectly working coffee maker, and a few toys with only scratched paint. In a flare of impatience, you want to toss it all in and be done. But when the lid slams shut, something inside you collapses too. That sting of mottainai, a small Japanese word for what a waste, that pricks the conscience of anyone who sees objects as companions, not just consumables. Tossing in haste is like hanging up on a difficult call, but behind every item lies hidden effort. Cotton planted, water dyed, electricity spent, hands that crafted. When we push things into the landfill, we are not only discarding an object, we are discarding time, resources, and the chance for someone else who might need it more than we do. In the real world, nothing vanishes after the lid closes. Fabric lingers for decades underground, leaching chemicals and microplastics into the sea. Electronics release heavy metals lead, mercury that seep into soil and water, circling back into someone's dinner. A plastic toy grins silently in the landfill, holding the trapped energy of oil, drilled, shipped, refined, just to end in a pit. And us? We think we are living minimally because our homes are emptier, when in truth we are shifting our burden onto the earth. Minimalism is not making things disappear, it is making their journey clear. I once witnessed a house cleaning day turn into a small neighborhood festival. A neighbor laid out a sturdy wooden cabinet, a box of clean blankets, some mismatched dishes, with a neat sign, "Take what you need." By afternoon, the cabinet found a new home with newlyweds, the blankets warmed a single mother, and the dishes became part of a student's first shared meal. She smiled and said, "My home feels lighter, but also warmer, knowing these things are still alive." That feeling is worlds apart from tossing into a bin. No guilt, only a quiet cycle linking person to person. I have also heard the regrets. I wish I had not thrown it away. If only I had looked for an e-waste drop-off. It hurts that my child's crib never reached another family. It turns out the way we say goodbye to objects shapes the tone of our memories. If you live in the United States, giving objects a second life is not hard. A sturdy chair or shelf can go to Goodwill, Salvation Army, or Habitat for Humanity. Many even pick up bulky furniture for free. Old blankets and towels can comfort animals at shelters. Books and CDs are welcomed at libraries and schools. Electronics belong at Best Buy or e-waste centers, so toxins do not return to the water supply. Organizations like Vietnam, Veterans of America, local churches and shelters keep active lists of urgent needs. A quick search will reveal maps of donation bins at train stations, community centers, even apps with people ready to pick items up. Every choice you make is a vote for a circular, economy-less extraction, less emission, fewer landfills swelling. To make it a rhythm, do not wait until clutter explodes. Each week, set aside an hour, maybe Sunday noon, for 3 boxes, donate, recycle, and trash. Before dropping anything into the third, pause. Does it still work? Could someone use it? Does it need special recycling? Wash clothes before giving. Note the condition of electronics. Take photos of furniture for community boards. For items you hesitate on, use a waiting box dated on the lid. If untouched after a month, there is your answer. For big cleanouts, schedule pickups so you do not lose momentum. And invite family and friends. Decluttering alone is a chore. Decluttering together is connection. The Japanese remind us to offer gratitude before parting with an item. A small arigato to the coat that braved seasons, to the pot that simmered countless meals. That simple ritual turns giving into a practice of mindfulness. Wabi-sabi teaches that scratches do not erase value. Often it is because something was used that it carries a story ready to be continued in another home. And the intentional space created is not absence, but room to breathe. Lighter for your home, lighter for the earth. In time, you will see the small circles you create expand into larger ones. Saving money by not replacing things rashly, tax deductions from donations, neighbors bonded over a shared shelf, local groups strengthened by shared goods. Most importantly, your mindset shifts from "I must keep because it is not enough" to "I can give because I already have enough." At that point, minimalism is no longer an aesthetic arrangement. It is a promise of sustainable living. Every item leaving your hands falls into its rightful next life, not into a hole. 5. Mistaking minimalism for self-deprivation. The first time you step into a room emptier than usual, you may hear a sigh that does not seem to belong to anyone. Bright walls, flat tables, so few belongings that the clink of a spoon against the glass echoes. You tell yourself, less is right, but only days later, that right begins to feel like a narrow mold. You start counting items, not to understand, but to punish yourself. You remove the family photo because it feels messy. Fold your mother's floral blanket deep into storage because it is off-tone. And give up your vinyl collection because it feels too emotional. Minimalism suddenly turns into harsh discipline, like a crash diet, thrilling at first, then hungry and resentful, ending in exhaustion. And in that moment, you have mistaken it. You thought you were free, but you were only depriving yourself. I once heard the story of someone's cutting day. They packed a whole box of handmade crafts from long winter's embroidery frames, yarn, wooden molds, and donated them, feeling 3 kilograms lighter. But the following year, on a rainy afternoon, they stood outside a yarn shop window, staring at rolls of honey-colored wool, their chests so hollow they could hear the rain itself. What was lost was not just supplies, but a path to joy. Another person turned their living room into a showroom, white, beige, flat, perfectly on trend. Yet the room lacked the scent of wood, the rustle of silk, the presence of an old cracked vase. Each night they sat down, not in peace, but as though visiting a stranger's house. When minimalism becomes subtraction only, it strips away warmth and stories. So, what is minimalism if not austerity? In the Japanese spirit, it does not ask you to crush desire, but to redirect it. Less here does not mean so little that you suffer, but less in order to feel enough. Wabi-sabi reminds us beauty does not live in spotless perfection, but in scratches that tell a tale. And the intentional emptiness is not a hole, but the lungs of the home. Once you understand this, you stop counting objects and start counting rhythms. The rhythm of your breath in a morning free of notifications, the rhythm of your hand pouring tea into a chipped cup that fits perfectly, the rhythm of conversation stretched 10 more minutes because the room, though sparse, is rich with warmth. Minimalism does not promise less of everything, but more of what matters. To escape the trap of self-deprivation, do not ask, "What more can I cut?" but "What nourishes me?" Does the cold of bare concrete floors nourish you? If not, then a rug from your father, even if off-color, nourishes gratitude, memory, and your feet. Does a 10-item wardrobe sustain you through 4 seasons and flexible work? If not, then adding a warm coat and sturdy shoes is not betrayal of minimalism, but betrayal of austerity's myth. Minimalism is, at its core, a curation guided by your survival criteria. What is useful? What is meaningful? What helps you breathe deeper? Try a small ritual. Before discarding or keeping something, write down the reason. Because I want more time to read. Because I need to save for visiting my parents. Because I want a kitchen warm enough to host friends for dinner. When the reasons are clear, the standards adjust. You will not throw out a colorful painting just because it clashes, if it truly makes you smile each morning. Nor will you keep a prestigious coffee machine if a simple pour-over kettle gives you quiet or joy. The sense of lack dissolves when what remains is chosen out of love, not fear. Balancing need and want is not a black and white equation. In Japan, even simple spaces make room for something purely for delight. A sprig of ikebana, a wooden tray marked by time, so long as it enriches life. You can allow yourself right luxuries. A mattress that spares your back, a gentle lamp that rests your eyes, bowls that fit your hands and make meals more meaningful. These desires do not break minimalism, they anchor it in care. What you must cut are hollow wants, decor bought to hide emptiness, smart gadgets unused after 3 days, or the perfect minimalist shirt you never feel like wearing. Gratitude is the antidote to loss. Each evening, note 3 things you cherish among what remains. The wooden chair with its familiar creak, the thermos that keeps tea warm, the cardigan that brings calm. Gratitude transforms the story from subtraction to addition. Alongside it, set emotional checkpoints. After decluttering a drawer this week, how do you feel? If it is cold and empty, stop and return a few story-bearing objects. If it is warm and peaceful, take another gentle step. This is not a sprint, but a training of rhythm. One day, you will no longer fear a sparse room, nor a shelf with its own color. You will sip tea from an old cup, read a long set-aside book, and see the space between 2 objects as a riverbank, where water rests to become clear. Minimalism then ceases to be self-denial. It becomes kindness to yourself. Less noise, more nourishment, fewer purchases, richer experiences, fewer objects, but more worth keeping. In that way, you will no longer be caged by being as minimal as others, but walk into a just right garden where everything that stays has a reason, and you, after much trial, finally find a place to breathe. 6. Not defining what enough means. The night before a trip, you place your suitcase on the bed, and the room suddenly feels hushed. Only the soft rasp of the zipper along fabric breaks the silence. You want to try living light, as some online advice suggests. 1 backpack for every journey. You fold the first shirt, then the second. You place your walking shoes beside a toothbrush, allergy pills, and a slim notebook. But then you hesitate. What is enough for a week? A thin jacket or a thick one? A book or just the e-reader? A camera or just your phone? Without an answer, you zip the bag shut with a flicker of unease, unsure if you packed too much or left out what matters. Minimalism in daily life works the same way. When enough is not named, every effort is only guesswork. And guesswork is tiring. That weariness is quiet but persistent, like drizzle. You declutter this week, then again the next, and again after that, still comparing yourself to someone else, to some standard. You try the 1 backpack rule, then the 100 things rule, then a 12-piece capsule wardrobe. Each cut leaves you asking, too much or too little? At the bookstore, your eyes catch minimalist formulas written like laws, and you weigh yourself against others' scales. Without your own definition of enough, you trade freedom for a vague contract. Less and less and less, until the room is neat, but your heart feels hollow. I know someone who tossed a box of family recipes, believing digital can replace it, only to learn months later that no memory is as fragrant as sesame oil on yellowed paper. Another sold all their work tools after watching a video about life in one bag, only to buy them back at a higher cost, because their work could not run on bare hands. Both had one thing in common: their enough was never named before their decisions. The Japanese measure differently, not by counting items, but by balancing life. A simple teishoku, meal rice, soup, a main dish, a side, pickles looks modest, yet it is a structure nutritionally enough for an ordinary day. Enough does not mean holding your breath with too little. It means having what sustains you fully. Try defining enough in your own language concretely. How many outfits keep a week flowing without frantic laundry? What tools make a kitchen ready to cook 3 familiar meals? What belongs on your desk so you can begin work the moment you sit? Write it down, not as a rigid law, but as a wind chime frame, sturdy enough to hold, airy enough for the breeze. Then test it in real life. After 7 days, did you stumble in shortage, rush to buy what you lacked, or open your closet with ease? When enough is named, it sets a steady rhythm. And do not confuse enough with someone else's standard. Every timeline online is a stage where spotlights and makeup rarely reveal the backstage. You may live in a 400 square foot apartment, yet need a full woodworking set. You may raise 2 children, so your enough for winter clothes differs vastly from a single person in California. Your definition deserves its own colors, pace, and weight. If an image shakes your confidence, ask, does this standard serve my real life, or just make me look more on trend? Loyalty to your own enough is the anchor against storms of comparison. In Japanese, there is the word enso, a circle painted in one breath, never perfect, but wholly yours, fitting your rhythm. When defining enough, leave room for intentional emptiness. Enough is not stuffing every gap tight. It needs borders, padding, space to breathe. You might create a flex zone for transitions. A box of camping gear opened only in summer. A small shelf for budding hobbies. Life changes year by year. New jobs, children, moves. Your enough must be renegotiated too. Meet yourself each season for a gentle review. What is excess? What is lacking? What needs replacing? That is the spirit of Kaizen, improving little by little, keeping your enough alive and growing with you. Let a notebook witness the process. Each decluttering, jot 3 short lines. What you kept and why. What you let go and why. And whether today's enough differs from last month's. If a decision troubles you, try the honeymoon test. Box the item and mark a 4-week date. If you never reach for it, perhaps your enough excludes it. If you must open the box midway with a clear need, then enough has spoken, I need this. In this way, you and enough converse naturally, without force. Soon, you will notice a subtle shift. Your room does not need to look like someone else's to be calm. Your closet does not need a perfect number to feel neat. Your kitchen does not need matching tones to feel warm. Your enough is written by your schedule, your meals, your climate, and the faces you love. Each morning, you open the closet and know you have what you need to step out. Each evening, you glance around and know there is space to breathe. When enough is named, the mind no longer guesses. And at the end of the day, you can sit, pour tea, and smile at the Enzo you have drawn, not flawless, but whole in your own way. 7. Overloading your schedule. There are mornings when the alarm has barely stopped ringing, yet your day is already chopped into little squares. A 9 a.m. meeting, an obligatory coffee at 11, a rushed lunch while answering emails, an afternoon darting across town for a side project, then an evening event for friends, and late at night still wrapping up loose ends. Your home may be tidy, your desk may be clear, but your schedule holds no empty space to breathe. Your mind whirs like a fan on its highest speed. The roar feels like progress, but you are only spinning in place, draining energy. Minimalism in objects cannot rescue a life lived without minimalism in time. An overstuffed schedule is clutter of another kind, unseen, but more exhausting. I remember a week when I tried to be a good person by saying yes to everything. 1 workshop, 2 family gatherings, 3 unexpected tasks, 4 requests for help. By Wednesday, I sat in a silent room, my heart pounding like a train station, words on the screen blurring into dance. A friend told me a similar story. After decluttering her house, she felt free-handed, so she crammed her schedule: yoga every morning, Japanese class every night, volunteering each weekend. Just 3 weeks later, she rushed out to buy new shoes as a reward for her own exhaustion. It turns out, when we overload ourselves, both body and wallet find ways to compensate, and every effort at minimalism collapses from within under the weight of a schedule with no stopping point. Online, the confessions echo. My home is neat, but my mind is tangled. I decluttered my things, only to clutter my time. It feels like I cleaned my room just to make space for more tasks. What swells a schedule is rarely the big events. It is the tiny yeses, a small favor, a chat that runs long, a 15-minute task that derails the whole afternoon. Body and mind each have thresholds. Every context, switch writing to meeting, meeting to messages, costs the brain a reboot. Without breaks, cortisol drips steadily into your veins like an underground stream, thinning your sleep, sharpening your thoughts into barbs, shortening your patience. We think we are making the most of time, but we are devaluing attention, the one asset that cannot be borrowed. If belongings need curation, time needs it even more. The Japanese teach us to begin with rhythm. Before filling the calendar, create intentional gaps. A morning without screens, so your mind can start gently. A 15-minute walk at lunch to separate life's rhythm from work's rhythm. An evening closing ritual, 3 lines. What is done, what moves to tomorrow, what you are grateful for. These pauses are the negative space, the ma that frames the canvas, letting the rest breathe. From there, you can say no with ease. I'd love to, but this week I need to hold my rhythm. Or, I can help Friday, not today. A polite refusal is a deep yes to your long-term well-being. The method is simple. Each week, spend 20 minutes reviewing your calendar against your 3 core values: family, work, health, or your own trio. Any commitment outside them deserves rethinking. If I skip it, what truly suffers? If I keep it, what is the cost? Cap each day at 2 or 3 anchor tasks, the energy-heavy ones, leaving the rest for lighter work or rest. Batch similar tasks into single blocks, 1 session for emails, 1 for calls, 1 for paperwork. Use a single tool to track your schedule. Scattering across apps only scatters your focus. Each month, cancel outdated commitments. Calendars also collect trash, and calendar clutter is more toxic than household clutter. But the real key is gentleness. Treat rest as a sacred appointment. Block off do nothing, Sunday afternoons, as the Japanese savor a full cup of tea. That is when you water the dry soil of attention. Scatter small pauses through your day. Inhale 4 beats, hold 2, exhale 6. Close your eyes for a minute before opening a new tab. Drink water slowly enough to feel it arrive. These do not waste time, they return time to you. When you silence most notifications, you are not missing the world. You are hearing it more clearly, with less distortion. And then you realize, simplicity in your schedule does not make life poorer. It makes it deeper. Dinners hold enough conversation, work holds enough focus, sleep holds enough depth. You no longer live under the constant shadow of almost late. You know your own pace. And within the honored spaces, joy and creativity quietly return like fish surfacing when the lake grows still. Minimalism is not just a room with fewer things. It is a day with fewer debts, fewer jolts, fewer unconscious yeses. So every moment you are present is whole, peaceful, and truly enough. 8. Buying minimalist products. Sometimes tidiness begins, ironically, with a box. You watch a video and see a smooth-grained wooden tray, a few glass jars, a bare desk holding only a minimal laptop stand. You think, maybe this is the one thing I'm missing. Soon a package arrives, then another, then another. By the end of the afternoon, your desk looks cleaner, but your receipt stretches endlessly. The irony, the more you buy things to reduce clutter, the more clutter you actually gain. A new set of boxes because the old ones don't match the tone. A new shelf because the minimalist items still need storage. A new tote because a minimalist wardrobe needs a statement piece. minimalism slowly mutates into a consumer style. Instead of asking, "What do I need to live well?" you ask, "What do I need to look minimalist?" And in just weeks, the room is crowded again. Only now the clutter wears a fashionable beige. I knew a young man who bought an expensive modular cabinet system to organize minimalism, only to find his tiny apartment too cramped, the spare panels shoved under the bed like stray ribs. Another filled her kitchen with an eco-friendly green set knives, cutting boards, lunch boxes, all sustainable. Yet she still cooked the same 3 dishes, and her sink overflowed with durable tools that rarely got used. Someone else built a wardrobe of neutral basics, only to buy more winter clothes that clashed with the palette, hiding them away, the waste buried not in fabric, but in aesthetics. A client of a professional organizer bought a gorgeous pen tray to declutter stationery, then filled it with new pens just to justify the empty slots. Sometimes shopping is a refined ritual. We are not buying function, but the comfort of feeling we did something. At its core, though, minimalism is not an outfit, it is a way of life. The Japanese spirit of mottainai, the regret of waste, reminds us that every object carries resources, labor, and time. Before you click buy, switch the question. Am I buying the appearance of being minimalist, or the ability to live minimalist? The ability to live minimalist is often cheaper and simpler. Silence 90% of notifications, set blocks of time for emails, tidy 1 drawer a week, repair what can be repaired, give away what you don't need, and learn 1 small skill of self-reliance. A single sharp knife outlasts a block of 10. 1 sturdy backpack replaces 3 mood bags. A cast iron pot cooks more than a lineup of must-have gadgets. If you must shop, let true need guide you, not the label minimalist. Start with what you already own. Is there something broken that irritates you daily? A gap in your routine that makes mornings late? Track those frustrations for a week before deciding. Try the waiting test. If after 14 days the desire remains and you have a clear plan for use, then consider it. Favor 1 high-quality, versatile tool over 3 trendy, mediocre ones. Do not overlook secondhand goods flea markets, community groups, consignment shops, saving money while sparing resources from short-term desire. And if you must buy new, choose transparent brands, repairable designs, and replaceable parts. That way you are buying longevity, not just an image. Another way to break the loop is by doing it yourself. Mend a torn seam, glue a book spine, sand and oil an old chair. These give you a sense no unboxing ever could, a sense of agency. Wash a glass jar into a storage container, cut a worn towel into rags, build a shelf to fit your corner. You will learn why less needs to be refined. Less, placed rightly, carries more meaning. Wabi-sabi whispers that newness is not always needed. Sometimes a cherished crack is more beautiful than a lifeless surface. Set breaks to avoid the trap of minimalist products. Designate 1 no shopping day each month. For every new item, let 1 old item go. Each quarter, review your wardrobe and kitchen against your current rhythm. Before discarding, try repairing. If not, pass it on. Before bringing something home, ask 2 questions. If I didn't already own this, would I still buy it? Or am I just buying the feeling of having it? And in the next year, how many times will it actually appear in my life? If the answer is hazy, do not add clouds to an already beautiful sky. As then you will see, when your hand stops hitting add to cart, your heart stops adding stress. Your room breathes, your wallet steadies, and satisfaction no longer hangs on a delivery box. Minimalism returns to its meaning. Fewer things, more value, fewer purchases, more lived experience, fewer logos, more stories. And you, in a marketplace always whispering just 1 more, will be calm enough to answer, I already have enough to live well. I do not need more just to look right. 9. Expecting perfection. At night, you polish the wooden table until its surface could reflect a star in the kitchen. Everything sits at perfect right angles, charging cables coiled like brushstrokes, not a single strand of hair on the rug. You step back, admire the scene, and whisper to yourself, tomorrow it must look exactly like this. But the next morning, a drop of coffee falls, An unopened letter slides across the edge. Your child tosses their backpack onto a chair. 3 small details out of orbit, and inside your mind, the alarm blares. What shatters first is not order. It is the gentleness you give yourself. When minimalism becomes a constant guard against imperfection, every ordinary slip feels like a crime, and you are left as weary as a soldier on watch who never sleeps. I know that feeling. After weeks of decluttering, I once held my home in photo-ready shape pen tray, aligned, spines of books in uniform rows, kitchen counter, spotless. Until one evening, friends came over. Their laughter broke the layout, dishes scattered across the table, cookie crumbs fell like a meteor shower. For a moment, a voice in my head cried, "It's ruined!" Yet when they left, though the house was still messy, it was warmer than before. What hurts us is not a pillow out of place, but a standard that refuses life permission to unfold. In other stories, this obsession runs deeper. Someone too afraid to invite guests for fear of spoiling the space. Another judging their closet each morning because it no longer matched a palette. Another quitting an art class because clutter crept into a corner. When looking perfect outweighs living, minimalism has lost its way. The Japanese hold quiet, profound philosophies. Wabi-sabi finding beauty in imperfection, in the cracks of time, in what strays from symmetry. And kintsugi, the art of repairing broken pottery with gold, teaches something miraculous. What once fractured can become more precious because it tells a story of healing. Bring that spirit home, and you will be kinder to yourself about a water ring on the wood, more forgiving of a table edge marked by a teacup. The concept of purposeful space does not demand sterility. It asks only for breathing room. True emptiness is not a shrine no one dares touch, but a space where people can rest. How do we step free from perfection's grip? Shift the goal from flawless to smoothly functional. A good desk is not one that is empty, but one where you can sit down and clear it in 2 minutes. A beautiful closet is not one in a single color, but one that lets you choose an outfit in 30 seconds and still see yourself. Each time your hands twitch to rearrange for a Pinterest image, ask, is this serving my life or serving a picture? If it serves life, continue. If it serves image, set it down. And allow close enough. 80% tidy is plenty for a clear mind. The other 20% is the necessary ripple that keeps a home alive. I like a small evening ritual, 5 minutes of bringing things home. Not a deep clean, just returning the notebook to its shelf, the pen to its tray, the cup to the sink. Those 5 minutes are like an exhale before sleep, not perfect, but peaceful enough. Each week, do a slightly bigger reset, wipe the counter, gather papers, delete stray notifications. So, today's undone tasks have a place to wait for tomorrow. For areas always messy, stop demanding forever neat. Instead, design them to be messy within order. A large basket by the door for bags and hats, a tray for mail, a tablecloth to absorb coffee drops. Compassionate design makes discipline gentler. And when a day slips, clothes unput away, kitchen uncleaned, learn to see it like weather. Today is rain, tomorrow is sun. No one blames the rain for not being clear skies. Write a single line in your journal. Everything is still okay. That line is the umbrella shielding you from self-reproach. And practice gratitude instead of fault-finding. Thank the desk for carrying a day's work. Thank the rug for catching your friend's laughter. Thank the stained cup for keeping tea warm until the last page. Gratitude shifts life from a showroom project into lived presence. Then you will discover the wonder of a minimalist home is not that it is always perfect, but that it easily returns to rhythm after moments of living fully. Simplicity becomes not a frozen image, but a gentle flow, messy at times, then tidy again, skewed at times, then straightened like the heartbeat pumping life along. And in that rhythm, you are no longer a guard over objects, but simply a dweller in your home, where every scratch, every coffee drop, every item an inch out of place whispers, "Here, life is allowed to happen." As you close the door tonight, give your room a long exhale, and then give yourself an even deeper one. You do not need anything more, just a warm cup of water, a chair steady enough to lean on, and a quiet promise to yourself. Tomorrow, I will move a little slower, choose a little less, and listen a little deeper. Minimalism is not a straight line. It is more like a small stream, winding just enough to teach us how to weave around the stones. Some days the water is full, some days it runs low, but the stream keeps flowing because it knows the way home. If your heart still feels restless, place your hand on your chest and try counting. Breathe in for 4, hold for 2, breathe out for 6. Each breath is like a brushstroke painting an Enzo in the air, never perfectly round, yet whole in its own way. In that stillness, the loud invitations of the outside world will naturally step back, leaving space only for what truly belongs: warmth, a gentle habit, a small object with a story shining quietly like grains of sand under the sun. Wabi-sabi does not teach us to abandon, but to be tender with what is not perfect. Ma does not teach us emptiness, but to leave a pause for joy to enter. Tomorrow, begin with one choice leaning toward lightness. Turn off one notification, decline one needless invitation, tidy a single drawer, mend a broken item, or thank an object faithfully serving you. A single stone placed well can change the flow of the whole stream. And if you would like to walk with me through these turns, keeping a home that is neat yet always warm, leave me a small sign. Press like if you feel a little lighter, subscribe so we do not miss the next steps together, and share in the comments. Tomorrow, what will you choose to let go of, so you may have one more breath of space for yourself?